Hello, good morning. Can we all settle down? Students, can you please take your respective seats? Thank you. Distinguished guests, my colleagues, student friends, 2 weeks ago, Honorable Finance Minister presented the budget to Parliament. We have requested some of the leaders to come over and present the salient features of the budget. That is the context in which this meeting has been organized. So I would like to request the guests to come on to dais one after another. Sri Purandeswari garu, Sri Dinakar garu, Sri Madhav garu, now we request the distinguished guests to light the lamp. Vande Mataram, please. Can we all stand up?
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam. Shamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Shubhra-jyosna pulakitayaminim, Pullakusumita drumadala shobhinim, Suhasinim, Sumadhura bhashinim, Sukhadam Varadam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram.
seated. Now I have the privilege of introducing the guest of honor, Srimati Daggubati Purandeswari Garu. Lot of us know about her, but for the sake of the proceedings, former Union Minister for Human Resources, former MP from Visakhapatnam. She gave a historical speech in the United Nations as a representative from our country on human resources and Indian traditions and culture. She is also the National General Secretary of BJP, well-known political and social personality across the nation. She is also a great articulator. I think we are going to taste it. I don't need to talk about it. Ma'am, it's our honor to request you to give the salient features of the budget.
The distinguished guests seated on the dais, and of course last but not the least, the future of India that is seated before the dais. I deem it a great honor and privilege to be here on the campus of GITAM University. Just not to be here on the campus of GITAM, but also to be actually addressing the future of our country, as I had mentioned earlier. And when I see the bright new faces sitting before the dais, it gives people like me so much of hope that the future of India is definitely going to be protected, assured, and in safe hands. And therefore, I once again would like to thank my party, as well as my leaders, and GITAM University management for having given me the opportunity to be able to stand before you today. Well, the meeting today does not have any political overtones. It is not to say one government under the leadership of one party has done very well, or another government under the leadership of another party has not done very well. But this is, as it was introduced to you, a critical analysis of the budget. And as we all know, the Union Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji, has very recently introduced the budget in the Parliament, and it is awaiting to be passed in Parliament. And as we all are aware, it is under the Article 112 of the Constitution that it is mandatory for any government to present the budget in the Parliament and to get it passed before the beginning of the next financial year, that is around 1st of April. And why is it mandatory? Because unless the budget is passed in Parliament, can we not expend the revenues that we have gotten? Usually, what is a budget document? A budget document speaks of the revenues that the government has gotten and the areas in which the government foresees to spend the revenues that it has received. And largely, it also seeks to give social justice and equality, which is a reflection of the spirit and sentiment of our Constitution of India. And that is the reason why it is very strongly felt that a budget has its impact on very many sectors. And therefore, there is usually a very close scrutiny of the budget soon after its presentation in Parliament. And there is normally a month-long debate. And then it is when the budget is passed. But even as we go into the details of the budget, I would like to draw the attention of the young crowd seated here to how Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji actually started her budget. While presenting the budget, she said that this is the first budget that is going to be presented for the Amrit Kal. Now, what do we mean by Amrit Kal? It is easy for so many of us to read it and say, okay, Amrit Kal, but what is it that she meant when she said Amrit Kal? As we all know, we have achieved our independence about 75 years ago. We've completed 75 years. And going forward, we have another 25 years to reach the 100th year of independence. And it is this 25 years, from 75th to the 100th year, that Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji had addressed as the Amrit Kal. Is it simply 25 years? The answer would lie in how Shri Modi ji had actually defined Amrit Kal. He said that it is in these 25 remaining years, before we achieve the 100th year, that we will want to actually achieve equality, reach the last mile, and also bridge the gap between the rural and urban India, India and Bharat as we call it, the rich India and the poor cousin Bharat, with little government interference and bringing a large change in the lives of the people. This is what is the essence of what Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji had called it Amrit Kal. Going a step further, she also said that India is a bright star in the international economic scenario. And we need to understand why. As we all know, the past 3 years have been very, very difficult, not only for our country, but for the entire globe. Every country was reeling under difficult situations and circumstances. None knew what Corona was, leave alone the spelling of Corona. But we still braved Corona, and now we are braving the geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine as well. So it has not been easy for the entire world. And in a globalized world today, we can never ever say that one economy or one country is completely protected from such kind of turbulences that happen in the international scenario. But yet, when we see how India faced the COVID tension or situation, or how India braved the geopolitical tension as we are seeing it even today, I think there is a lot more that needs to be said. Many countries, during reeling under the influence and effect of Corona, had actually pushed into the economy a lot of money to support the economy. India also did. 20 lakh crores were actually pumped into the economy, as was mentioned in Budget 2021. But when we look at the US, they too had pumped in a lot of money into the economy. But did it really give the results that they were expecting is the question that needs to be answered. Today, when we look at the global GDP or the growth of the entire universe, today the global GDP is projected to fall to 2.9%. And the previous year, in 2022, it was 3.4%. This is the entire world. Before Corona, it was about 3.8%, which means there has been a drastic decline in the global GDP. Now, have the Western countries really come out of the difficult situations that they have seen during Corona? If we look at the growth of the United States of America today, it is around 1%. It's expected to grow around 1%. Germany is expected to grow around 1.4%. France is expected to grow around 1.6%. Japan and UK are expected to grow around 0.9%, which means not even 1%. China is expected to grow around 4.5%. So then what is it for India? India, as IMF had said, is expected to grow around 6.8% this year. If not 6.8%, even if I reduce it by another 0.4%, it would be 6.4%, which is much more than what the developed countries are going to grow at, the pace at which they are going to grow at. Then the question that would arise is, what about inflation? Well, on the one hand, when the Western countries or the so-called developed countries are growing at such snail's pace, their inflation is much, much higher. But when you look at India, with a moderate growth of 6.8%, if not 6.8, 6.4%, our inflation is around 5.2%. We would want it much lower, but we will have to take many other situations into consideration as well. And that is the reason why Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji had said that India is a bright star on the horizon. So we have answered what is Amrit Kal, and we now know why India is a bright star on the horizon. But having said that, she had also announced a slew of measures that would actually enable our country to grow further, despite the difficult situations that we are facing. And when you look at this slew of measures that have been announced, well, I have been given 3 areas in which I'm supposed to decipher and explain to you what has been done. One is women, second is youth, and the third is education. So I will constrain or restrict myself to these 3 areas and try to explain to you what has been actually provided in the budget for all these 3 areas. And I'm happy that the 3 areas have been given to me, because these are the areas which, if they actually perform, can take our country on a trajectory of higher growth. If you look at women empowerment, now women constitute about 48.9% of our total population of 140 crores. Which means not only internationally, but even on the national level, we are 50% of the population. And it is therefore but natural that focus should be given to women empowerment, because this is a hidden pool of talent. This is a hidden pool which can actually contribute very well to the economic growth of our country. It is not as if measures were not taken by any government. Even when Narendra Modi ji's government had come to power in the past 8-9 years, they have ushered in many programs to ensure women empowerment and progress. For example, the Jan Dhan Yojana. Today across the country, if there are about 44 crores of Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. Jan Dhan Yojana is an account which a poor man can, with great self-pride, go into the bank and open an account at 0 balance. He does not need any recommendation letter. He does not need to deposit any money. But with 0 balance, he can open his account. Financial inclusion, that was a distant dream for all these years, have been made a reality by introducing Jan Dhan Yojana. And it is with pride that we can say there was nationalization of banks that was spoken about. But how much did the banks come closer to the poor was a question that remained to be answered. But Jan Dhan Yojana has actually brought the banking system closer to the lives of the poor. And out of the 44 crore accounts that have been opened, when I talk of nationalization of banks, right from when nationalization of banks were announced to 2014, the number of bank accounts that were open were only about 7 crore. But from 2014 to 2022, I will not take, say, 23, but 22. The number of bank accounts that have been opened were 44 crores, and 80% of the bank accounts were by women. That is what we would call financial inclusion of women who were literally thirsting for this kind of a financial inclusion. So it is not only Jan Dhan Yojana, but even Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the housing for the poor. Out of the 2.5 crore houses that were announced right across the entire country, about 22 lakh were given to our state of Andhra Pradesh. And largely the houses that were given to the poor were on the names of the women. It was not on the names of the men. That is again empowerment of women. When you talk about construction of toilets, when Narendra Modi ji became the Prime Minister of the country, and from the Red Fort when he spoke about construction of toilets for the poor, people mocked him. They said, did not the country Prime Minister have a better message to give but to talk about construction of toilets? But not many actually saw that this was an issue that was related to women health, women hygiene, and above all, women's self-respect. He brought in the Ujjwala Yojana was brought in by the government. And under the Ujjwala Yojana, free gas connections were given to crores of women in the country. 9 crore poor women today have gas connections at home. They no longer have to cook on logs or wood. Surveys have often said that one meal cooked by women using sticks or logs, she inhales actually the smoke of 20 packets of cigarette smoke, which means imagine the impact it's going to have on the woman health. So all these measures were actually ushered in, keeping the health and the progress of women in mind. But yet, this budget that was introduced by Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji has much more to offer for the women. I just explained to you about Jan Dhan Yojana, where women who were used to probably saving their money, husband gives money to spend for a month, she saves about 10 rupees, 20 rupees, and where does she put it? In either the rice dabba or the dal dabba. But here Jan Dhan Yojana has given her an opportunity to walk into the bank and put her savings in the bank. And opening a bank account also gave her assurance, an insurance to life up to 30,000 rupees. If she meets with an accident, if she's suddenly physically handicapped because of the accident, then she has some money to fall back on, which has come as her insurance because she has opened a Jan Dhan Yojana. But that is not enough. We need to take the women of our country to the next level. And looking at that prospect of taking the women to the next level, there was a small saving program that was announced for the women, which was called Mahila Samman Saving Patra, which means small amounts. She's, of course, putting into her Jan Dhan account, but she can go further to save up to literally 2 lakh rupees. That is, beginning from 2023, right up to 2025, she opens her account with 100 rupees in either nationalized bank or the post office savings, and she can keep saving into that account little by little, and the limit is 2 lakh rupees. What is the benefit? The benefit is the interest that she is going to get on that saving is 7.5%, much higher than what banks actually give when you save into their into the accounts in those particular banks, 7.5%. Besides that, she is going to get all the incentives attached to 80C of the Income Tax Act. And then the question is, okay, she puts it in the bank, then can she not draw it out? Yes. There is a provision where the woman can actually draw her money out of the bank for little necessities in life. Probably the child's education, probably a wedding in the family. She can actually keep drawing the money out, as well as refurbishing it back. So this actually gives the woman, imagine a woman in rural India doing this. Urban India, we are all very financially literate. But what about the woman in the rural India? This is actually taking her a step ahead in financial empowerment. She is going to be proudly saving her money. She is going to be proudly using her money. And it is normally believed that if a woman saves her money, it is always utilized in the right direction and the right manner. It is a saving. I didn't say it. People said it. And therefore, we brought in financial inclusion into the system. But we needed to go one step ahead to bring in financial literacy. And therefore, the financial literacy is brought in through the Mahila Samman Saving Patra. Above this also, we know that we have self-help groups in the country. The self-help groups was a movement that was introduced in the country by late Sri P.V. Narasimha Rao ji. And this is a silent revolution, absolutely silent. Nobody focuses on it. But these are small groups of 10 or 12 women who are constituted across the country who save as well as utilize their savings for whatever the necessities and needs are. Today, across the country, there are almost about 81 lakh self-help groups. This is not a small number because each group has anywhere between 10 to 12 women who are there in the self-help groups. They too earn interest on their savings, but the interest is not high as compared to the Mahila Samman Saving Patra. Now we have the ground ready. Now what do we do with these self-help groups? Do we simply form them into groups and leave them as they are? Or are we going to do any bit of hand-holding for them? It is here that it was decided by the central government that when women can contribute so much, and when women are almost 50% of the Indian population, why cannot they play an active role in the economic growth of our country? And it is under this that under the Rural Livelihood Mission, the self-help groups were formed, they were given support. Now they are allowed to form larger groups, which means 10-15 of the groups can come together to form producers, progressive producers, groups by themselves. Now what do we mean by progressive producers? Which means that the women in these groups, individually I as a woman can take 2 lakh of rupees as loan, or as a group I can avail 10 lakh of rupees as loan. And this loan is utilized by the women in these groups to start small enterprises. You will be surprised when I actually encountered a woman in Hyderabad. She comes from a semi-urban urban area, and I don't think it will be right to name her as well, but I ran into her in one of these conferences where I was attending like this. And in the course of the conversation, I asked her what she was doing. She said, "Madam, I run a very small-scale footwear manufacturing industry." I said, "Well, good. What do you do?" She said, "Madam, I prepare, what we call the Hawaii chappals, the rubber chappals. I prepare those." I said, "Very good. How do you market them?" She said, "No, I just do job work. I produce it and I give it to one of the leading companies. They stamp their name on it and it is sold as the brand." So these are women who have potential, who can contribute. And therefore, it was so desired, relevant, to actually ensure that these women in these self-help groups can actually become progressive producers in the country and also contribute to the economic growth of the country. Now, not having said that, we all have heard of Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, which means the farmers in the country are supported by the central government up to 6,000 rupees each farmer. And that is the input subsidy that the central government actually gives the farmers. Now today, almost about huge amounts are given to these farmers. Yes, 2.25 lakh crores are actually given to these farmers under Kisan Samman Nidhi. So the question you would ask me is, why are you talking about farmers when you are supposed to be focusing on women empowerment? And the reason why I'm saying this is that almost 60 to 70% of these farmers are women. Largely, we would say agriculture is a is exclusively an activity done by men. But not many of you are sitting here, because we are all more urban-centric, would we realize that probably accepting the pesticides and probably the leveling of the land, large part of the activity is actually done by women. Transplanting, fertilizers, they're all done by women. And therefore, it was relevant that women farmers be given the kind of support that they should be given. Besides that, we also, Nirmala ji had also laid a special emphasis on Saksham, Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0. Anganwadis come under the ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme. What do these Anganwadis do? These Anganwadis actually provide for pregnant women who are malnutritioned, and also ensure that the children from 0 to 3 years are actually given healthy, nutritious food. And there is a little bit of schooling that is given to the children in these Anganwadis, ICDS, under the ICDS scheme. And if we look at the Anganwadis across the country, we have 14 lakh Anganwadis. Now, what is the relevance of Anganwadis in today's scenario? Today, I've just mentioned, India is a rising star. It's a bright star on the horizon. But despite all these adjectives, the sad part of the story is that we have a large section of women in our country who are malnutritioned. And since they are malnutritioned, they give birth to malnutrition children, and therefore our infant mortality and our maternal mortality rates are high. We have managed in reducing them, but not at the pace that we wanted to go. And therefore, the Saksham, Anganwadi and Poshan Abhiyan 2 has been allocated 20,544 crores to ensure that nutritious food reaches to these women who are pregnant, lactating, and also children as well. Other than this, there is a mission Vatsalya that Nirmala ji had laid great emphasis upon. Mission Vatsalya is not a new scheme, but it is rather an integration of 3 schemes which were in various different ministries to ensure that the children of our country have a very happy and protected childhood. And what are those 3 schemes? They are juvenile justice for children, and care and protection for children in conflict with law, integrated program for street children, under which support is given to street children care homes. But because as these were in different ministries, there was no integration, there was no bridging between, and they were working in isolation. And hence, all of these have today been integrated and is called Mission Vatsalya. And last but not the least, when it comes to women empowerment, the IT changes, income tax changes that have been announced. Income tax, now you don't have to pay, it's not 5 lakh, but up to 7 lakh of rupees, you don't have to pay your tax on that. Again, you will ask me, so what is in it for women? But today, as we know, many of our women are stepping out of their houses. They are working. And this actually is in recognition of the pain that these women undertake as well. So there is a great saving that goes in when we say you don't have to pay your taxes until 7 lakh of rupees. So these are all the various schemes that she had announced to actually empower. We have already started empowering our women, but in making them progressive, and positive contributors to the economic growth of our country. All of these will actually help in the economic growth of our country. Secondly, there was great focus on youth of the country. Now, when we talk of youth, we have a population of 140 crore in our country. And surveys have day after day emphasized that 25% of our population is between the ages of 16 and 35. What does this mean? This means that we have a large pool of young talent that can not only suffice the needs of our country, but can also suffice the needs of the world. So what do we do with this huge talent that we have? There's always a constant debate on whether we should bring in incentives or rather disincentivize people from having more children. Now we have a standing stark example in China. China encouraged the one-child policy. And today, the result of that one-child policy is that China is an aging society. It has a lot more older people than younger people. But India did not do that. India said, okay, you can have your children. And we have 144 crore population, out of which we have 16 to 35 as 25% of the population. So what do we do? Is it intelligent to have more children? If I was asked the question personally, I would say yes. Why would I want my country to be an old country? But I would rather invest in the young pool of talent that I have to make them contributory to the entire world GDP. And that is going to make me as an Indian really proud if my children are going to contribute to the international GDP. And hence, looking into the huge pool or huge opportunity that we have, Nirmala Sitharamanji had announced the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana in the budget, which means this is a program that is going to have great focus on skilling our children. Now, why is skilling very important? Every child cannot afford to go to colleges, or rather every child that graduates cannot find a job for themselves. That is where skilling comes into great play. In the sense that we can actually create entrepreneurs from the young talent that we have in our country, like each one of you sitting before the dais. And therefore, there is great focus on skilling. Now, how is skilling? Today, when you look at technology, there are so many changes that are coming in the world. Artificial intelligence, you say artificial intelligence, suddenly somebody will talk about mechatronics. You say, okay, yes, mechatronics, you settle down, they will say, no, robotics. So there's so much of technological changes, churning that is happening in the world. And there is so much of changes that are coming in technology. I'm sure all of you must have seen in social media, suddenly a child of 16 years would invent a flying motorbike. And yesterday I saw there was a medical equipment that you actually focus on your, on the upper side of your elbow. You can see your veins and you can inject the needle into the vein from exactly where you want to draw the blood for your tests. These are all huge technological churning that is happening in the world today. So we need our children to keep pace with the changes that are happening. And because there are so much of technological changes happening so fast, that there is a huge gap between demand and supply. Artificial engineering, they are searching for people. They are saying in the coming years, in the coming 2 to 3 years, we would need at least 50,000 employees. Where are we going to go and get them from? Unless I train the children in my country. And that is the reason why there is great focus on Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which again focus on artificial intelligence, robotics, mechatronics, 3D printing, drones that are coming into the country. And not only in one particular area, but areas like agriculture, education. We need these potential technological interventions in all these fields. And therefore, there is great focus on this that is happening. And needless to talk about artificial intelligence and 5G as well. I mean, it has been so decided that skill development for all of this will be given through 30 centers across the country, through the engineering colleges, partnering with private people. Because there is a demand from private sector that we need a section of skills. And we need to provide that to the private investor. It is only then that investments will come into our country. India is very good in education. India is very good in soft skills, but we also need skills. And that is why we need to partner with the private. And we need to partner with the institutions, because research needs to happen in all these areas. Ideally, people say 4% of the GDP must go into research. The government, I'm talking about central government, invests about 2% of its GDP in research. Now, where does the other 2% come from? The central government cannot afford to do all. So we will need private institutions like GITAMs, we will need private investors, private manufacturers to actually invest into research and development, R&D. And therefore, the partnership tie-up has been very well thought after, where the central government, the private institutions, and the private sector is going to contribute to make this happen. Now, when I talk of artificial intelligence and 5G, there are going to be 3 centers of excellence across the country. This is only level 1. Now, you will question, are 3 centers sufficient for the entire country? No. But this is, we have to roll out, because as such a large country, we need to roll out, we need the resources as well. And therefore, it is going to be initially in 3 centers across the world, and this will be through the Digital India 2. And of course, as I had mentioned, these will be set up in collaboration with private institutions, universities, and private players too. Last but not the least will be the education sector. Now, in this year's budget, we can proudly, very proudly say that allocation for education has risen by 7.9%. Today, in the budget for 2023, the allocation for education is 1,13,000 crores plus. 1,13,900 crores is the allocation for education. When I was the Minister for Human Resources Development, I remember I attended a conference on education in London. And this was a conference attended by education ministers across the country. And each country was asked to come onto the dais and speak about education system in their country for 15 minutes. We were given a grace of 15 minutes. I'm not sure how much I'm given now, but I was at that time given 15 minutes. So there was a minister who went on to the dais, and for 15 minutes, he spoke non-stop about the challenges that the education sector faced in his country. And as he was coming off the dais, I was called onto the dais to make my intervention. And as I was crossing him, I stopped for a second and I asked him, "Sir, may I know what is or what are the number of children that go to government schools, that go to schools in your country?" He said, "Madam, that's a massive number and you don't know how difficult it is to actually handle them. There are 10 lakh children that go to my schools in my country." I said, "Wow." I came onto the dais, and that is when I said, if a minister from a country who has 10 lakh children going to schools, and he speaks for 15 minutes about the challenges that education sector faces in his country, then as a representative of a country that has 13 crore children going only to government schools, how many minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years would I need to speak about the challenges that my country faces? But yet, we have been able to improve our literacy. We have been able to bring children into our schools through Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. But that is not enough. Ideally, 6% of the GDP needs to be invested in education. The NEP, the National Education Policy, also speaks about it. But the government is able to go up to 4%. But as I said, it is the private sector as well, leaving aside its profits, needs to give quality education to our country to have quality citizens as well. And therefore, the education increase by 7.9% is not a small amount that the central government has increased with. And what are the focus areas when we say that 7.9% of the allocation has been increased? The focus area has been the tribal areas. Those tribal children who do not have an opportunity to go to good schools. Those tribal children who do not have proper infrastructure. Those tribal children who do not have qualitative teachers. Well, it is a different story. When I was talking to one leading industrialist in the country, and I was the education minister, he said, "Madam, today you people are unnecessarily making a hue out of for nothing. Because when I was in school, I am a leading industrialist now, but when I was in school, I did not have benches, I did not have chairs to sit on, and my teacher would come probably once in 2-3 days. We would sit under the mango tree or neem tree that was in the compound, and we had our classes held there, but this is where I am." Which means education depends a lot on the quality of teachers that we can give our children. And therefore, the finance minister has proudly announced that she is going to actually recruit 38,800 teachers for 740 Ekalavya schools. We all know Ekalavya. And these are schools more particularly in the tribal areas, and therefore to provide the necessary infrastructure to these tribal children where quality education can be given to them. And we have huge talent in tribal children. They are strong, they are clever, they are intelligent because they fight nature. They live with nature. They live with challenges. So they are absolutely courageous. And therefore, to bring them into the system, 38,800 teachers would be recruited for about 740 Ekalavya schools, and there has been an increase in the budget by about 580 crores than last time to ensure that these residential schools are given protection, infrastructure, so on and so forth, including healthy food for the children. So this is not a small intervention that is being done. 3 years of precious time have been lost by our children, 20, 21, 22, because of Corona. They were online classes, but we all know very well how many of the children would actually sit in front of their iPads to listen to the teachers. And we all know parents who would help their children from behind when it comes to exams online, giving them the answers from this side. You could do this, you could write this, and so on and so forth. I have one at my home too who did that. So because precious time has been lost and we need to bring back these children to school, unless we have books in regional languages, these children's interest cannot be revitalized. And therefore, keeping in mind this, the National Book Trust and the Children's Book Trust have been entrusted the responsibility of bringing out textbooks for these children in regional languages so that the children can come back to school and focus on their study. Similarly, there is the diet centers that we have in our country, across the country, which trains our teachers. Arjun Singh ji was my union minister. And I walked up to Arjun Singh ji and I said, "Sir, in particular country where I went to, every 5 years there is an exam that the teachers would have to take. And unless you pass, you will not, your license would not be again renewed as a teacher." He laughed at me, and this was, I'm talking about almost 2005. He laughed at me and said, "Purandeswari, do you know how strong these teachers' unions are? And are you sure you want to take them head on? If you do, I'm not sure how many teachers are going to come back, but you will be ousted out of power. These were the exact words that he said. But unless the teachers' skills are revitalized, they have to do, new pedagogy has to come in. They have to do digital classrooms in school. And unless they are trained, this is not going to be possible. We are not going to have quality teachers. And therefore, with focus on that, the diets that we have, which only focused on teacher training today, are going to be converted into dynamic institutes of excellence, where there's going to be new pedagogy, focus on smart classrooms, technology ushered into education, as I had mentioned earlier. All of this is going to be brought in to ensure that the quality of our teachers improve. And last but not the least, the labs. It is the laboratories in our institutions also that need to be revitalized. How do we do research for changing times in our country, for changing needs in our country? These are also areas that need to be focused upon. Therefore, 100 labs across the country would be identified for higher and niche researches that need to happen in the country. So these are largely what the budget has in store for women, youth, and education. And I would request each one of you, I'm sure some of you are noting it down, some of you are probably exchanging notes between each other, but whoever have noted these down, I would be happy if you could go into the internet, pull out each program to understand the relevance and the importance. And I would also like to thank GITAM University for giving us the opportunity, myself, Dinakar ji and Madhav ji, to come here and to explain what the budget has in store, because it is you who will have to understand what the budget is. Here is a budget that speaks about pulling people out of poverty, reaching the last mile. She spoke about Saptarishis. She said, my budget is going to touch 7 core areas. And these 7 core areas are going to be inclusive development, which I have mentioned now, reaching the last mile, the women empowerment that I had spoken about, infrastructure investment, which is going to bring more investment into our country, unleashing the potential, the youth power that I just spoke about, green growth, because there is so much of focus on green technology, green energy, and so on and so forth, youth power that I had just mentioned, and financial sector as well. Now, if you look at the poverty numbers, extreme poverty in our country has been reduced by 12.3%. It came down from 22.5%, I think, to 10.3%. But yet, there are 4.2% who are living in poverty, and there are almost about 18.7% who are living in vulnerable poverty. Now, what is vulnerable poverty? We just saw the earthquake tremors that happened in Turkey. More than 30,000 people have lost their lives. But there is a section of people that have become vulnerable and poor because they have lost everything. We know of children who lost their parents because of corona. These are children who are going to grow up in vulnerable poverty. So we still have poverty and we still have vulnerable poverty. And therefore, we need to focus, understand what the budget has in store for us. And Nirmala ji had rightly called our future generations the Amrit PD. Amrit PD means the Amrit generation, because it is you who are going to bring in the change in our country. Svagrihe pujyate jeshta, swagrame pujyate prabhu, swadeshe pujyate raja, vidwan sarvatra pujyate. We respect the elders in our home. We revere the king in our kingdom. But that one who is well educated and is understanding will be respected and revered everywhere he goes. And this is the generation which I believe will be respected and revered wherever you go. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
we have two more speakers. In the interest of time, I request the remaining speakers to be precise and brief, because after these speeches, our students have a few questions to ask the panel. So now the next speaker is Sri P.N.V. Madhav. By profession, he is a cost accountant, MLC from North Andhra Graduates Constituency. Completed his MBA from Andhra University. He takes interest in entrepreneurial and livelihood studies. Over to you, Madhav garu.
A very good noon to everyone. Respected dignitaries on the dais, faculty members, and my dear future of India. And today I stand before you to speak about the budget. One of the borest topics in a commerce class or in a management class is economics, right? And for us to listen about budget is itself a tiring task. I can find a lot of faces feeling bored about what are the things being delivered here. Madam Purandeswari has given an excellent speech, because her rhetoric, both in any language, is exceptional. I thought he said I bored you. No. Budget speech is itself bored, but so in spite of all these things, today I stand before you. Actually, what budget offers is, as Abraham Lincoln has a famous quote, perfection of means confusion of ends. Almost all budgets are perfect. Perfect means it offers a lot. When you open the budget highlights, you'll be finding everything bright. There won't be anything that is derogative or something which does something to our country, because every budget is always perfect. But what actually budget should do is, what are the actuals that are being spent? In budgets, you should always say, today we are talking about the budgeted thing. After the budgeted thing, there's estimates. And finally, it's the actuals. Actually, in a budget speech, after the report comes out, you'll be having these three things: budgeted, estimated, and actuals. So always the actuals doesn't speaks what it is. But always it happens that actuals and budgeted are completely different. So almost all governments at disposition will make that things are perfect. So, but when it comes to delivery of the things, there will be a lot of gaps. So this is the history of Indian budgets from years together. So I belong to the present dispensation that's at center. So my thinking process, my perspective of thinking about the budget is completely different. I look at those those things which are close to my heart. As our sir, GITAM sir, has rightly said about my area of interest is entrepreneurship and livelihood studies. I am a person from organized sector. Though I have done my cost accountancy, I am a person who looks at grey market. So grey market is what interests me. The grey economy, the unorganized sector the country is having, it enthuses me, because our country is being run by the unorganized sector. There's a lot of street vendors you find on the streets, a lot of women entrepreneurs who make small food processing units, and small tailors, and small village industries, artisans, the handicrafts, handloom weavers. All these people make what India is. It's not the organized sector, right? The organized sector brings us a lot of exchequer, a lot of foreign exchange reserves. It is true. But our country is run on unorganized sector. This is what my strong feeling is. I have traveled across each and every cluster of this country, and I find each and every cluster is what India is. India is called a golden chidia. Why? Because till 16th century, we are number one in the whole world's GDP. India stands first or second place. As every one of you know about the famous historian Angus Madison, who has written a complete historical perspective, and he has done a lot of research for OEP countries, oil exporting countries, to know which country's economic history is bright and which country's economic history should be emulated by West. That's the task given. He has given out a book called The Economic History of the Millennium. So he started from the Jesus Christ era, from 002 till 16th century. It's a news for the whole of West that India is far better a country than any other country in the West. So he said it's the highest exporting country. Indian GDP is number one. Around 60% of the India's resources are being exported. This is news to everybody, even to an Indian also. So why India was called a golden India and why India is exporting more than 60% world GDP? We have at the first place. Why? Because we have the entrepreneurs in every village. Every village we have people who work and job providers. And all our country is to be on lives under villages. So our founding fathers, Mahatma Gandhi, said we have to go towards village. Our economy should always be, our thought process should be on our Swadeshi. We should completely believe our own hands. We should completely believe in our thought processes. Unfortunately, our starting budget, the preparators of the country never thought of this process. So it has been our way forward, and India could not produce a lot. There are a lot of things highs, but there are a lot of lows also. So India's most diseased country in the world. We have the highest malnutrition patients. The gap between people who study and the kind of work they do. There's a lot of gaps. Not just this. We have lots and other things. We don't have respect for our language. We don't have respect for our culture. We don't believe learning a language will give us laurels or takes us to higher places, and never our thought process in that. This is the reason India did not win a Nobel Prize till date. In the Indian independent in India, we did not win a Nobel Prize. Somebody might be thinking, did we? Elsewhere we have seen Amartya Sen winning a Nobel Prize. In science and technology, India never ever won a Nobel Prize after independence. Before independence, true, we have Sir C.V. Raman. Why India did not win a Nobel Prize? The native thought, native scientific temper is something that is India lacking. So, the present dispensation at the governance, the thought process is on Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India. India should compulsorily think. The young minds of the India should think about what India can offer, what we can offer to the world. This is the other way around. Our policies have been dictated by people outside, not inside. Our process are being there's a transition between government to government. If a government comes, there'll be some kind of thought process. Other government comes, and the thought process. There is no uniformity in our goals, in uniformity on our journey. Three things which should not be changed whenever the dispensation at center changes. One is our economic policy. Economic policy by continued activity. When it starts, it should continue when the government changes, the party changes or not. Second is our foreign policy. Third is our defense policy. All these things should not be touched by any other. The polity of the nation should decide, and it should be a continued work. This is what almost all the Western countries follow. Unfortunately, our policies are being dictated by other countries. So now, the whole paradigm shift was to have our own indigenous, independent economic policy, own independent foreign policy, own independent defense policy. That's the change that was brought to this country. So many of you might not be knowing what is that it has relevance to this budget. Definitely, the Sapta Rishis, which were mentioned by our financial minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, did not start just in this year, in 2023-24 budget. It started around 2014. The inclusive thought process, the inclusive development which she was mentioning in the start of budget, is a thought process that was started in 2014. The budget never mentioned about this, maybe in 2014 budget, but now it mentioned the inclusive development thought process. When Prime Minister took oath, he said, I want to have a holistic thought process in all the things. I want to complete the uncovered, covering the uncovered, reaching the unreached. India doesn't have around 11,000 villages, it doesn't have an electrification. Around 60% of the population doesn't know the simple bank account. Around 60% of household doesn't have a toilet. Around 40% of the household doesn't have a gas connection. And this kind of India will not be a challenge to any other country. We want to make our country in economic progress. All these small things should be completed in a 360 angle thought process. So immediately in the first budget which was presented, addressed all these things. There should be a saturation mode of doing things. Toilets, every household should have a toilet within 1-2 years. Ujjwala gas, every household should have a gas connection within 1 year. Within 6 months, every citizen of this country should have a Janadan basic zero balance account. Within 1 year, we should have every citizen who is born here should be insured. So this kind of thought process was told to the youth, and people said, can it happen? So for your information, all these things have happened. Within just 1 year, all these things, the basic things, that every citizen of this country has an account. Every citizen will have an Aadhaar account, and Aadhaar and accounts are being interconnected. These kind of things are now getting delivered. So what is the delivery that happened today is in spite of the recession that's happening worldwide, we have a 7.9 growth rate. The actual may be 6.3, but 7.9 is what was envisaged in the budget. It's a thing which definitely has a point. Not just this, our debt equity ratio, our debt with our external debt, everybody is talking about the total debt the country has. But you should look into the internal debt and external debt. Our external debt has decreased, and our debt serving ratio has also been decreased. Why? Because we have paid a lot of external debt. After so many years, we started repaying. We have paid Iranian bonds, oil bonds which we have brought. For last 25 years, it was not paid, we have paid. We have given the money back to IMF. This has all not happened. So the process of thinking and of the process of delivery has also changed, and its results are coming. And this is Amrit Kal. So what our Amrit Kal journey starts from today to 25 years from now. When we celebrate our centenary, what's our target? Our target is 5 trillion economy by 2024. Is it possible? We are just 2.4. We want to double it within 1.5 years. Is it possible? Right, it's not possible. Maybe our thought process, our targets should be so high so we can reach and we can just cross all those thought process. And not just an independent economic policy, our independent foreign policy definitely brought a lot of money to our country. This is my strong feeling. The Modi government was elected second time only because of an independent foreign policy. Maybe many of you thinking what foreign policy has to do with our economy. Our economy has grown leaps and bounds only because of a robust, independent foreign policy. Never ever India thought of having a relations with those countries which are close to our heart. We have a civilization connected with all ASEAN countries. Never India had a very well-connected economic program. So you will be wondering, we never had a prime minister who visited Vietnam. Sushma Swaraj was a foreign minister who toured there for 4 days, continuous 4 days. Before, every foreign minister goes there from Vietnam, and anybody goes to China and spends 2 days over there and come back. Why India no prime minister of India visited Vietnam? What is Vietnam? It's a country lesser in size of Andhra Pradesh. Why no foreign minister visited Vietnam? Why? Because always India feared that China will get anger if somebody visits Vietnam. Vietnam is a small country which has given challenge to 2 big countries. One is China. It has defeated China in a war. In second country, everybody of you know in the infamous 1966 war, where Americans were thrown out of the soil of Vietnam. The Pentagon even now fears. They chill in their spine is Vietnam in 1966 war. So 2 superpowers are defeated by a small country called Vietnam. What is Vietnam? Vietnam is a country which produces 10 times what we produce in 1 acre of our land. It produces 10 times of what aquaculture we do in 1 acre of pond. Not just agriculture, in technology and giving employment to every hand. Every Vietnamese is an entrepreneur. When you visit Africa and other countries, Africa has rich agricultural resources. All hotels in Africa are full of Vietnamese people because they go there, bring the agriculture produce and the process and export to the whole world. The highest and fastest growing economy, which can be emulated, which can be seen. We can have a direct connect with Vietnam because Vietnam and Bharat has a civilization connect. The Vietnamese also feel we are connected to India, but never ever a prime minister visited and had a robust economic policy with Vietnam. It started with Narendra Modi and we are having a lot of exchanges. We have challenged China in Vietnam. Vietnam has given a lot of exploration plans. We have our oil exploration plant in South China Sea, which China doesn't agree. But we had our oil exploration. Same thing happened in a small country called Israel. They got independence just before, 2 years before, in 1945. A country called Israel was formed after 2,000 years. Every average Jew's dream is, before Israel is formed, whenever a Jew meets another Jew, what he'll tell? Next time we'll meet in Palestine. This kind of a rhetoric was there for 2,000 years. In 1945, the country was formed. What was Israel? Israel is surrounded by Arabian countries. They fought a war. In 2 years from the 1946, they had a war. In 4 days, they have defeated them. There are around 20 big wars being fought, but Israel stood like a rock. What Israel is offering technology, new technology to the whole world. What Israel is offering green technology to the whole world. And Israel is now a country where each and every country want to have a tie-up. America's technology, defense technology is completely dependent upon the technology transfer that happened in Israel. And Jews are now ruling not just almost all the European Union and America. So we never had a tie-up. No Indian Prime Minister visited Israel until 2017, when our own Prime Minister put his foot in Israel. Why it did not happen? Because there is a fear consciousness the vote bank will be going off. So because of vote bank politics, never our Prime Minister visited. Narendra Modi spent 3 days in Haifa, in Israel. He visited almost all the places. We had a technological exchanges without any bar. They said, you are our own friend. You are the only country which embraced every Jew as your own. And there is no annihilation, no exploitation of any our citizen. This is the only country in the world. So I'll be transferring technology transfer free of cost. You'd say we'll be giving. Now Israel is the second highest defense importer for India. Previously we are 90% dependent on Russia. Now the dependence on Russia has reduced it came to 46%. Or 36%, more than 30% of our defense equipment imports are from Israel, not just in defense, in science and technology, in agriculture, in solar initiatives. Israel is a partner for India, and India's economic journey, growth journey, started from these two countries. For your information, every one of you here should definitely learn about these things before we go into the details of the budgets. Madam has spoken about what the budget offered, what the budget has given, a lot of highlights about all these things. And definitely the thought process of this government has been for last mail delivery. It is called Anchodaya. The last man sitting should have the delivery of the things. So DBT, direct benefit transfer, has come into place. Now every state government, every central government is doing DBT and directly transferring to the person. The only thing that should happen, the thought process is there, that in the fair price shops is there. The ration which is being delivered, a lot of malpractices are being done. There's a thought process that there should be a direct benefit transfer of all the welfare schemes to be delivered to the citizens. This is a thought process now started coming. And almost every government is following. Our state government is following it in a very big way. Our welfare schemes are not unparalleled to any other welfare scheme because we are doing a lot of money transfers. So this kind of a last mile delivery mechanism and unleashing our youth power, unleashing our green power and our financial structure, which I am telling about independent financial structure. This government started having an independent economic structure, wherein which our growth should be with the hands of Indian. Our growth should be with all the people. The demographic dividend of the country should be unleashed to the maximum. The thought process has started changing from NRI. We always backed on NRIs, non-resident Indian, who are just went there and settled, started earning. But the thought process now thought of PIO. persons of Indian origin, people who have went for centuries together, living there. They never claimed we are from Bharatvasi or we have our roots in India. Now all these people are coming out and telling we are from Bharat, our ancestors are from Bharat, and will definitely be a handful helpful to India. This kind of unleashing, bringing out our potential, because India is a country which has given almost everything in the world. When the world is in complete darkness, we have given light. We have given not just knowledge, we have given everything. The scientific thought process that is being the West is claiming has its roots in India. Not just in India, almost all the inventions, discoveries that happened there had those roots in India. This is what the people in India, the youth of India should know. Then a sense of pride will definitely come. We'll be thinking about the architectural wonders that we have done. Not just thinking about the bridges that British have built. Not just about the buildings the Britishers have built. We have done a lot of architectural wonders which almost all the scientists in the world wonder. So this kind of a thought process, there is a paradigm shift that has happened. In this present budget also, there are a lot of things, technological things, IoT, AI and all. But the line given by Nirmala Sitharaman or Modi was artificial intelligence for India. What it will make for India, it is not just doing things for India, what it works for India. Artificial intelligence should work for India. It is not make in India, made in India. Make in India should become made in India. It should be made by our own hands. We should definitely think there's no brain drain. We should think there's a brain gain. If you go there, definitely learn, earn, and come back. This kind of a process should come. And this kind of a thing only builds India. This is called the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which the present dispensation is telling time and again about the self-reliant India. The young minds of India should definitely think our India, how our India has progressed. And 75 years of journey, we never looked about our own things which have given us to the pedestal of the glory, wherein which we were used to export. So definitely this budget also had all these inputs. These small things like Go Bhardhan, like galvanizing the organic biodiversity thing. The Sri Anna, which Modi was talking of, the millet, the poor man's millet, poor man's rice. So all these things are now getting importance. It's not just this, the Mango Grove Initiative, the Misti program, Pradhan Mantri Misti program. Many of you might have studied. India is completely of wetlands. Wetland is what India is. We have the biodiversity. We have the birds, migrating birds coming to India. Why are those birds coming here and have laying eggs and going back? So India is a country where we use the diversity, biodiversity, where we have equal sun and equal moon. Our day and nights are equal. The only country which has highest solar exposure. Why are we taking advantage of this? Now, in this budget, there is hydrogen, hydrogen bank to be built. Lot of initiatives. Our dependence on fossil fuels should completely come down. There's a thing about the hydrogen. Almost all the plant NTPC in Visakhapatnam is also being converted as a hydrogen bank. So all these small initiatives and bringing livelihood to almost all the citizens, the fishermen, the artisans, all these things were incorporated in this budget. And agriculture artisans, there's PACs, everybody of you know the potential of agriculture cooperative societies. All these agriculture cooperative societies this time are being computerized, and there will be interlinking of all the PACs. This will give a lot of economic benefits to the agriculture farmers. Not just this, there is a talk about ENAMs in the previous budgets, wherein all the national agriculture markets are being digitalized or galvanized together to bringing best price to the farmers. So these kind of initiatives were definitely mentioned, and this budget is what our country's progress towards Atmanirbhar Bharat of a self-reliant India. And I request every one of you to study budget in that perspective. I think a lot of financial people are here. My friend Dinakar ji will be telling about all the implications, the acts, the fiscal deficit, the GDP and all other things. I just had an overview of the budget and thought process of this government. And the youth of India should definitely be pride in the direction we are growing. And definitely you can be part of this also. You can directly interact, deliver to Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, Prime Minister Modi through Modi app. You can tell all your thought process. Always in budget, of the budget speech, there is a appropriation bills. Appropriation bills, so the suggestions that come from the citizens of this country. Only students never participate. Very few of you participate. I request every one of you should participate. Things of your interest, things of your choice. Definitely you should participate in the budget. Budget is not just a document for people who have a financial experience. It is for everybody. It affects everybody's life. So our budget thought process should be also in that direction. I thank every one of you for having a patient hearing. And I thank Gautam Garu. Gautam Rao Garu is also a cost accountant. And I know him from long. And I thank every one of you. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Madhav Garu. We have come to the last speaker of this morning, Sri Lanka Dinakar, an economic and financial expert, is a chartered accountant, a CA by profession. He has got 20 years of experience in accounting and political matters. Currently, he is a Pramukh of AP BJP Political Feedback Department, BJP panel media member for national TV channels to participate on 2023 budget discussions. He is also member for the AP BJP Union Budget Committee, member of several other committees that are associated with finance. He worked as a co-convener for Samaikya Rashtra Parirakshana Vedika, participated in not hundreds, thousands of TV interviews, debates, national and regional news channels pertaining to the economy, finance, social and cultural issues. So over to you, sir. Dinakar Garu, in the context of the time, may I request you once again to be precise and brief so that we get to the question answer session later. Thank you.
Distinguished guests of today's workshop on Union Budget 2023-24, Former Minister D. Purandeswari Garu, MLC Madhav Garu. Today, the opportunity which was given by the GITAM Institution's President Bharat Garu and Gautam Rao Garu. Precisely conclude my session is the request given by the Gautam Garu, but it is very difficult to complete precisely, but I try my level best to consume much lesser time than what practically I took. Today, the budget 23-24, the primary motto of this budget is Antyodaya. Antyodaya means, as my friend Madhavji told, that the last person of the poor and poorest of the people who resides shall get the benefits of the governance from the union government. Let you see the 80 crore people of the BPL families. Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Why I have taken this particular scheme as an example? After pandemic, you know that lockdown created a lot of hardship in the lives of the general public across the nation. The poorest of the poor people who are residing across the nation is more than 80 crore people who are providing food grains for the last 32 months. And it is extended further 12 months in this budget by the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji request. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitaram ji has taken that initiation. More than 1,25,000 crores rupees have been vested for this particular segment. And Atmanirbhar, Self-Reliance India, as Madam Purandeswari ji and Madhav ji told, that Atmanirbhar is the concept which has taken after the COVID-19 pandemic uncertainties to mitigate our own resources to mitigate our problems, utilize our own resources, and create market globally from these resources is the Atmanirbhar, self-reliance. We need to protect ourselves without much dependency on other nations, and the provide exports those products to the across the global is the primary concern as far as Atmanirbhar is concerned. But one thing is missed, Gati Shakti Yojana. I felt that our Madhavji told that Gati Shakti Yojana, it is the corest of the core concept which has taken by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji with 111 lakh crore worth of infrastructure projects to boost our economy, as well as infrastructure facilities wherever the gaps happened for past 75 years. 111 lakh crores, when that particular program announced by the Prime Minister in the year 2019, August 15th, most of the people raised their voice, where is the money? 111 lakh crores, where is the money? Just so many people told that it is just a slogan, nothing will be happen. But within the span of 3 months, Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharamanji announced a National Infrastructure Plan in which nearly 30 departments of various ministries, more than 6,900 projects has been identified on need basis. Each and every state, whatever the infrastructure required, whether it is irrigation, digital, or road connectivity, whatever the requirement it is, that particular state can choose option to get to fulfill the dreams of that particular state, as well as which gives employment opportunities for the young generation. Because post-COVID-19 impact, uncertainty create lot of unemployment. What we feel that because of slowdown of economy, lockdown impact, and across the globe, we know that slowdown of the economy, it is a visual fact. To come out from these problems, Honorable Prime Minister has taken decision through Gati Shakti. For next 10 years, India should reach as a guru. Global Vishwaguru is the concept which has taken in the mind of Prime Minister Narendra Modi by 2019 itself. But after the COVID-19 impact and Russia-Ukraine war impact, which create lot of supply chain disruption, huge amount of the employment opportunities across the globe we lost because of this global slowdown. At this particular juncture, keeping in view of all these uncertainties, whatever explained by the previous speakers, Honorable Prime Minister has taken decision to move this nation as a Amrit Kal is the primary concern. To take as a concept of Amrit Kal for next 25 years. These all are the projects, whatever the infrastructure projects under Gati Shakti Yojana, it should be get fulfilled. And inclusiveness is the one of the beauty of this particular budget, because most of the people speaks about the infrastructure project, Gati Shakti Yojana, and a lot of things which happens for next 25 years. But this particular budget has taken into consideration of the poorest of the poor, downtrodden people, how to uplift these SC, ST, minority, whoever they are. All the sections should be clubbed together in this journey. They are all get self-reliance economically and financially. My friend initially told that the budget is the boring subject. I think at his home, his wife is taking care of his expenditure and whatever the things happening in his home. That's why he is feeling it is boring. But here, all the students and the youth, whoever they are sitting, whether you have money in your pocket or not, definitely you make your estimations what you will do for next 1 month about your expenditure needs. Definitely you prepare your sheet. In similar fashion, government also makes its income and expenditure statement, out of which meaningfully how to disburse this expenditure is the primary concern as far as government is concerned. Like normally how you think, in the same line government also think, as you fix your priority for meeting your expenditure, government makes its priority with social cause is the main reason which take into consideration apart from the growth and development of the country. Most of the people think that I am paying tax, what I am getting back? It is the very biggest question. Everyone poses this question in their mind. But let you see that we are 140 crore people with a different financial status, with a different geographical constraints, with different infrastructure facilities, whatever. We need to take care of all the people along with us. We need to support the remaining people, whoever they are, depending on the assistance of the government. Government always keeps its mind to balance the expenditure, whatever the revenues which comes into the kitty, they want to balance in a meaningful manner. Let you see this particular budget, 45 lakh 3,000 crores budget it is, out of which 27 lakh crores are getting revenues from the central government through various taxation and other collections. Remaining 18 lakh crores is getting through debts. It is the biggest problem. Everyone is telling that huge amount of the debt, 18 lakh crore debt, out of which 80 lakh crore rupees is utilizing for the interest alone. How this country will sustain is the biggest question which rises in the mind of many people. But how beautifully this budget has planned is, it should be getting a case study. Because the main theme of this budget is incurring more and more expenditure for infrastructure facilities and capital expenditure. What is the capital expenditure? What is the infrastructure? I will tell you with a small examples to understand for the sake of your understanding, because you are being as a student, your level of knowledge, acquaintance regarding to the finance of the capital expenditure is a little bit of wider in government perspective. As far as capital expenditure concerned, you know that the expenditure which incurred to revenue generation for future by making certain operations through that particular facility which is available from that capital expenditure. Say, for example, this is the GITAM University. It is constructed 40 years back. By means of renovations and extensions and some kind of additional facilities, they are incorporated during this journey. That is the capital expenditure. By utilizing this infrastructure, you are all being students who you are coming for education, you are completing your education course, your respective courses within the stipulated time. Like that, for 50 years, these services are getting the students through the institution. So, initially, the building which was constructed is utilizing for years together. It is generating the revenues to the institution to make expansions, as well as the human capitals like you. Those human capitals are working in different streams. You are all providing GDP or by means of your services to the country. For past 40 to 50 years, it is happening continuously, and it is going on for a long time in future also. It is the capital expenditure. Like that, the government takes certain projects which provide infrastructure facilities, to provide employment opportunities, and to augment of the GDP, the capital expenditure incurs in different projects, whether it is road projects, let you see the national highways, irrigation projects, and some kind of infrastructure facilities for living standards, to improve the living standards of the people also, government takes as a social responsibility. Generally, we feel that capital expenditure always takes for revenue generation. It is correct as far as commercial balance is concerned. But in the case of governance, apart from the revenue and providing infrastructure facilities but for better living of the general public, most particularly those who are residing in the slums and rural area, those who doesn't have the proper connectivity, and those who doesn't have proper water facility, those who doesn't have proper housing facilities. These are all the social responsibility that also comes part of the capital expenditure in the form of providing facilities to the general public. So, in commercial parlance is distinguished when compared to the government approach as far as capital expenditure is concerned. This is the first time highest capital expenditure was allocated by the union government. It is 10 lakh crores. 10 lakh crores out of 45 lakh crores worth of budget, 10 lakh crores have been allocated exclusively for capital expenditure. It is direct capital expenditure allocation. And then 3 lakh 80,000 crore rupees, it is also create some capital asset through the state governments from various schemes of the union government, from centrally sponsored schemes, that amount utilized as the capital expenditure through state governments. That is 3 lakh 80,000 crores. Total together is 13 lakh 80,000 crores. In addition to that, 1 lakh 30,000 crores have been allocated to the various state governments interest-free loans from the union government. If those state government comply the guidelines as stipulated by the union government so as to incur their capital expenditure as per the budget of the state governments. So total together of all these three categories, nearly 15 lakh crores out of 45 lakh crores, 15 lakh crores, that means 1/3 of the total budget is going to be utilized for the capital expenditure alone. That means this particular capital expenditure, whatever which incurs, it is directly contributes by means of goods and services which utilize those projects into the GDP. And union government gets tax collections out of those expenditure incurs. And then one facility, by means of different facilities with these expenditure gets to serve the whoever they need. They take, for example, national highways. Yesterday, Honorable Prime Minister inaugurated Delhi-Mumbai Express Highway. It is a very beautiful highway. It was planned for 12 lanes highway. It was completed 8 lanes with the distance of 1,380 kilometers from Delhi to Mumbai. Generally, Delhi to Mumbai, it takes 24 hours of the journey. After completion of this particular project with 1 lakh crore rupees, the journey time reduces for 12 hours. 12 hours journey reduces means how much of the fuel is saving? How much of carbon dioxide it is getting come down because of this particular facility? 1 lakh crore investing one project from Delhi to Mumbai means after completion of, by the completion of that particular project, 1 lakh crore directly contributing GDP to the country with that facility while construction itself. And employment opportunities, nearly 10 lakh crore worth of employment opportunities in future around these facilities coming. How it comes? Alongside of these 1,380 kilometers, industrial infrastructure projects will come. And most of the entertainment as well as the forest area is also covering, tourism is going to be happen. So already while executing project itself is providing lakhs of the people employment opportunity. Once the facility completes, it is providing opportunity to build various commercial enterprises across this particular facility. I am taking only example of one project which is it is completed yesterday itself, inaugurated Honorable Prime Minister. Few months back, Bundelkhand, in which it is also 7,800 crores worth of project. It was completed for 180 kilometers in Uttar Pradesh. And one more project from Surat to Chennai, 50,000 crores rupees worth of investment is happening only in national highways. Nearly 350 kilometers of the road is laying in Andhra Pradesh, in Surat to Chennai highway. It is, I am telling, very small part of the total achievement of Prime Minister Narendra Modi regime. It is only a tip of iceberg, small thing, very small thing I am telling, because since independence, for these 75 years, prior to Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to the power, how many kilometers of national highways laid in this nation, do you know? only 91,000 kilometers. For these 8 years, 150,000 kilometers of the national highways completed. That means these 8 years, 60,000 additional kilometers of the national highways completed during the Prime Minister Narendra Modi governance. And 10,70,000 crores worth of projects are in work in progress. Those are going to be completed next 3 to 5 years. Why these facilities, infrastructure facilities, are taking as a priority? Because 1 rupee investment in the infrastructure facility, it will give yield for 3 times in coming few years itself. So whatever the wealth it is created, it is generating revenues. Those revenues are utilizing for the welfare of the people. So Gati Shakti Yojana, why I told that Gati Shakti Yojana initially, that Gati Shakti Yojana connects this, whatever I told in national highways, transportation facilities, railways, nearly 240,000 crores worth of allocations has done for railways, ship ports, airports. All these transportations have been connecting together to create logistic hub, and so as to render service to the people, smooth functioning of the commercial operations, to move their goods and services as well as the passengers with ease of traveling from one place to another place with much reduced lesser time when compared to the existing transportation time. It is come down by significant level, and which is saving to the commercial enterprise, whoever they are using those services. And it is getting benefit to those companies also, as well as the general public who want to go wherever they want to go from north to south. With lesser time, you can move. It is a very, very important area where this infrastructure, critical infrastructure facilities are at most priority has taken by the union government. Gati Shakti Yojana is very, very visibly changed this country in next 25 years. During the Amrit Kal, whatever we are mentioning Amrit Kal for next 25 years, it is the call of youth. This time is yours, because you are going to be the visible leaders for next 25 years. You are the people who are connecting to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's perception, what he is thinking, how to evolve this country after 100th year of independence, how we can become as a Vishwaguru. It is with your hands, in your hands only it is there. That's why infrastructure, employment opportunities, as well as revenue, how to boost revenue and how to serve those revenues for the future needs is the important priority has taken. Those who are raising their finger against to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi regarding to the debt, these debts are utilizing for the productive assets which generate revenues and as well as serve the general public for their needs. And these amounts, whatever the proceeds which comes as a revenue, we have the repaying capacity. We can have the provide services to the general public on the one hand, and we can repay very easily whatever the debt raised by the union government. And the GDP ratio to the debt also, it is at the meaningful level. Due to the corona in the year 2019-20, that was created some kind of hardship for 3 years to raise debts to use for the general public lives, to safeguard the lives of the general public. 80 crore people was assisted with food grains, and 220 crores doses of vaccination. Almost all here sitting, whoever they are also taken vaccination free of cost to safeguard the lives of the public. Honorable Prime Minister has taken decision to give vaccination at free of cost. On the one hand, safeguarding the lives of the people is the priority, and on the other hand, building the infrastructure for the future generation, for the augment of the economy, growth of the economy, as well as fulfill the dreams and needs of the general public. It is the core the points which was covered in this budget. I would like to tell that Saptarushi, the word Saptarushi, the term used by the Honorable Finance Minister, Saptarishis are nothing but the youth who are sitting here. You all are the part and parcel of the Saptarishi, because the yajna which is going to be completed to fulfill the aspiration of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, almost all, we are now at the 5th largest economy. In the year 2014, when the Honorable Prime Minister has taken chair as a Prime Minister, our position is 9th. Now we came to the 5th position. In coming 2 to 3 years, it may be reached 3rd largest economy in the world. And in the Amritakal of these 25 years, because of all your efforts, because of all your courage, and because of all your yajna, we are going to be Vishwaguru, top #1 in the world as a largest economy in the world by all your hard work. Thank you. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to the GITAM University, Bharat Garu, most particularly. I feel that all the inputs, whatever you are getting from these workshop, definitely you keep in your mind, and you should be part of this Amrita Kal to reach #1, Bharat as a #1. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much. Now, it is the question answer time. As we are going around, for those who would like to ask the questions, it is my responsibility to thank our guest panel today. First, ma'am, we are delighted to realize that India has been going through the lowest inflation compared to some of the superpowers in the world. Similarly, our growth rates are even much higher than what we are witnessing in countries like China, which were regarded as the economic giants not long ago. It is always a pride for all the Indians to be in that kind of a comfortable position. And what you said about women empowerment is also seen in GITAM. Of late, we have realized a lot of gold medals are won by women. The best placement packages are also won by women. And I won't be surprised if most of the good questions do come from women as well. So whatever the trend you are observing in the rest of the country, we are also witnessing here. Similarly, you have narrated at length what the government is doing for the youth, in addition to women, the inclusiveness which you have captured. And similarly, GITAM is also trying its best to recognize merit in women as well. And Madhav Garu, thank you very much for highlighting the principles of Modi ji in terms of emulating countries like Israel, Vietnam. And also Ravi Garu for highlighting the fact that the government is spending a third of the budget on infrastructure, which will have a multiplier effect that is going to be felt, let's say, in the next few years. And we are positive with you, the rest of the country, that by the end of the Amrit Kaal, India will emerge as the #1 from the current #5 position. I think right now I assume that we are all ready with the questions. The first question, please. Yeah, Bharat Garu is going to join us. I think, as you know, he missed the flight in the morning from Hyderabad to Vizag. He's going to be joining us any time. In the meantime, those questions, please, anyone with questions, feel free. To me, this question answer session is the icing on the cake. So let's try to do justice, please. The mic to those, somebody's raising the hand there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sirs. My question might be a little bit silly, but it is included in budget. I'm a more techie guy. I mean, I'm fond of technology and all these things. So I love all the devices, digital devices. So I have a very butty hand, so I tend to lose more devices. So I lose my smartphones every now and then. My father keeps scolding me for that. So my question is, the import duties or import taxes on the panels, smartphone panels and TV panels as well, they were cut down to 50%. I mean, if I'm not wrong, it is cut down from 26% to 13% on smartphone panels, and TV panels, it has been reduced to 5% to 2.5%, if I'm not wrong. So is there any significant reason behind cutting down all these things? Because I've read somewhere in an article that inflation rates are going to shoot up. So I bought myself a new phone even before that. So any reason behind that?
It is not the phones that are going to be imported into the country. It is the parts that are going to come into the country. As we all know, we have a missing link in our system where we are not actually producing hardware. And we've gone into software. We've missed that link. So now we need a transfer of technology to come in. And therefore, it's only going to be the parts that are going to come into the country at whatever reduced input duties that you have mentioned. But the making of the instrument per se would happen in India. As you know, China is now shutting down shop because of the corona incidences rising, because the way the economy of China is disintegrating. Companies are moving out, and we want them to come into our country as well. So by allowing the import of these parts and by allowing the assembly to happen in India, there is going to be a transfer of technology as well. So this is with the long view. And don't worry, I'll call your dad and tell him not to scold you.
Right. The next question, please. Yep, go on, Amma.
We are comparing the growth rate is correct because as you said that US has 1% of developing rate, whereas Japan and UK has 0.5% and India has 6.8%. So how are we going to compare that? We can actually understand that the growth rate in India is no higher, but we do not see that difference on a larger scale.
No, we need to understand what GDP is, gross domestic product, which means how much are we producing and how much are we consuming. That actually gives us the picture of GDP. Well, there are other parameters which other countries look at it, but within India it is what are we producing and how much of it is being consumed. If you go back into history, in 2008 we had a slowdown. I will not call it recession, but we had a slowdown. Again in 2010 we had a slowdown. 2 consecutive times we had a slowdown. But even during those slowdown periods, despite talking of being a globalized world, India did not do as bad as the other countries. The reason is because we are a consumer-driven economy. What I produce in my country is largely consumed by the people in our country because we have a large expanding middle class. In fact, other countries also, for example, China, it does not produce for itself, because it does not have a population that can consume. It produces for the world and more particularly for India. Well, that Narendra Modi ji has taken a decision that China products are not going to come into the country, that China apps are not going to be, I think even recently 253 apps have been banned. China apps have been banned. So we are in a way, I will not say completely, but in a way we are a self-reliant country. Therefore, GDP parameters have different connotations for different countries, but within our own country, and this is not what we said, this is what the IMF has said. IMF has said that we are going to grow at 6.8%. Okay, so it's not what we have said for ourselves.
Right, next question, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. This is Dr. Sampriti, Assistant Professor of Economics. I was itching to ask this question ever since the budget came out. And I have a query regarding the one celebrated highlight of the Indian economy mentioned in the budget. The budget talks about how wholesale prices and retail prices are converging, obviously supposed to be a relief for the public. My question is, retail prices, CPI, in its construction gives greater weightage to food prices than WPI. Isn't the convergence simply a statistical result of worldwide food price hike? Is the convergence really highlight-worthy?
As I had mentioned, there are different connotations. There are different ways in which different people will look at it. But for us, the convergence that is happening between the consumer index and the whole price index is for the good of the people within our country. And therefore, the convergence is really welcome, like you had said. But this is again not what governments are saying. These are what the economic experts are saying. We need to keep that in mind before we wonder whether this has political overtures or not, or whether it is being spoken in the political language.
Okay, next question, please. Oh, sorry.
Even inflation is concerned. If you make careful examination post-COVID-19, let you examine worldwide inflation, how much it is. Most particularly, I am talking about US. US inflation is much higher than our country because the plan which made by the US during the pandemic, they have given free money to those who have lost opportunities, job opportunities during that time, and huge amount of monies to the companies also directly they transferred. That leads towards the higher inflation. Whereas in India, Atmanirbhar package, if you have seen, as per the need basis, it has been given. Food grains directly supplied to the people, 80 crore people. Though most of the political leaders of a different spectrum, they asked to put huge money into the hands of the people. Government didn't do that. Whoever, what they need, that was supplied directly by the union government, and even amount, whatever, which required to lead their life for 3 months, amount also transferred by direct cash benefit scheme through. So we well managed when compared to the advanced countries, our post-pandemic inflation is concerned.
Thank you. 3 last questions. Yep, maybe somebody needs to take the, yep.
Sir,
All students, sir, they're all, okay, only one faculty so far.
sir, how can the budget help green growth and infrastructure development?
Your mic is not on.
Can you switch on the mic and?
Yes, sir. How can the budget help with green growth and infrastructure development?
Infrastructure development.
Because we are in Amrit Kal, so sir, green development is also necessary for us.
Yeah. First time union government has taken a decision to make 35,000 crores allocation for green power. Most particular, it is for solar power generation, hydro generation, and power bank, hydro power bank, to create hydro power bank. A union government has allocated 35,000 crores. But that particular 35,000 crores is from the union government, and public-private participation, which gives additional funds through the various FDIs and private participation. You may take that union government contribution out of this budget 10 to 20%, remaining 80% by means of attracting private participation. Definitely we get those investments, and in that particular spectrum, whoever the youth, they have the opportunity, they get the employment opportunities, as well as the green, almost all thermal power is going to be wiped out in the next few years, because of this is the initiation which taken by the union government for the green power generation.
Sir, our carbon emission is also our India and China both emitted approx 20% of the whole world, sir. So it is also need to come down.
Definitely, that's why union government has taken initiation for green power, and definitely we invite huge extent of the FDIs and private players in this particular sector. And whatever the objective, it is the initiation which taken by the union government, definitely it will get fulfilled in coming years.
No, on this I would just like to add that there was one point of a time when India was considered the dump house. In the sense, literally, industries that closed down in developed countries were brought into India with machinery that was outdated in their countries. And we at that point of a time, we were in such a state that we didn't mind because we wanted people to come in. But today, India is not in that state of thinking or process. Today, the manner in which there is great focus on green energy and the carbon imprint that you had spoken about, India very strongly and very daringly, despite all the problems that we have, had said that we are going to bring down our carbon imprints by 20%, which is not small for India. Because even if you look at the farming practices, we burn our stubble. The methane that is given out actually hampers the green growth in our country. But we have said, no, we are going to get it down by 20%, and we are going to do it, looking at the various measures that the central government is looking at to ensure green growth, green energy.
Respected ma'am, sir, good afternoon. My name is Alisha Arora and I'm from BA Social Sciences. My question is, the current budget proposes to reduce duties on import inputs of various sectors like mobile phones, TVs, diamonds, etc., while also increasing the taxes on certain consumer goods. Ma'am or sir, could you please enlighten how the proposed hike in customs on silver imports is supposed to benefit the middle class?
Well, normally when import-export duties are levied, it is taking into mind the situation in our country. There may be sectors that need to be supported with import, with easing out the import duties, and probably there are sectors where export duties need to be increased so that it will add to the, when you have people consuming within our country. We have to take the entire scenario into mind. Now, gold and silver are two areas where people look at it more as a luxury. People look at it more as a luxury. Well, there is also a section of people which say that this is actually a part of our culture because we invest in gold. The daughter gets married, we get in gold or silver. So they do say that, but it is not productive investment that you are making. You buy gold, you put it at home. There is no productivity that comes out of it. You buy silver, you put it at home. There is no productivity that comes out. But here we need, especially taking the present situation of the country and the entire globe into consideration, we need the multipliers effect. I invest and then it multiplies. So that is what we are looking at. And hence there is a conscientious move to discourage investing in putting money into such investments that do not have that multipliers effect.
Okay, next question, please. Yep.
Ma'am, very good afternoon, ma'am, and very good afternoon to sirs. So my question is something that ties up the national politics to the country's economics. One thing that has been plaguing or will be plaguing the country's economy in the near future is the ugly practice that is being followed by a few governments, that is the freebie culture or the rave culture. So normally no government, whether in opposition or in power, no political party will like to take a stand on it because they feel that if they take a particular stand on it when they're in opposition, they might have to indulge in the same practice when they're in government. But to my surprise, this particular union government has taken a strong stand on it, saying that it completely opposes the freebie culture and all. So is there any legislative stance or legislative measure that you can take to curb this ugly practice so that the future generations do not have to pay a cost for the activities of the present politicians? Thank you.
Actually, it was in this campus when Nirmala Sitharamanji had come here for a particular function, she made it, NTR centenary. She made it very clear that freebies are not really welcome. She had made it very clear. And even in the process of introducing the present budget in the parliament also, in very subtle words was said that freebies are really not going to contribute to the economic growth of our country. And we always believe that we should teach people to fish rather than give them fish to eat itself. Whether we can make a legislature or not, we also have to look at it on whether we are encroaching into the rights of the state government too, because we are in a federal system. We have the central government, we have the state governments, and the state governments are not going to allow the federal government to interfere in their means of working. So this is a debatable point, and is a good point actually to be debated across the country.
This debate is happening for last 1 year most particularly. We need to understand the distinction between freebie and welfare. That is a very clear distinction we need to understand. All welfare measures are not freebies. But unfortunately, there are some state governments. They are directly giving money. They are feeling that out of their pocket, they are giving money for the political reasons. They are creating a lot of problems of their state economies, as well as it is influencing on the economy of the nation. But that, in that perspective, I myself has given one proposal to Nirmala Sitharamanji by means of letters, because a huge amount of debts are raising unproductive expenditures. So, debt regulatory authority, I asked debt regulatory authority like GST Council, keeping in view of the debts which are raising for distributing money at the, to their accounts for the political reasons. As you said, welfare measures are helping, hand-holding help for the poor and needed, for getting self-reliance for them. That is the welfare. Freebie means you are making them lazy, not to work in future. That is the freebie. So the difference between welfare and freebie should be very much carefully examined and practically implemented. Honorable Prime Minister has considered welfare as the measure of helping, hand-holding help for the poor and needed.
Right. Last question, please. Yep.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries. I'm Ashish Palle, and my question is essentially about I was just going to the budget highlights document, and one thing which actually puzzles me is that how would we actually, because in my opinion there are two main things which are needed for any country, which is one is welfare and the other is development. So I'm not understanding as to how do we actually create this balance between both.
Now, there was a little bit of discussion on freebies and welfare, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And Lanka Dinkarji very categorically mentioned that we need to, the dividing line is very fine right now. What is a freebie? What is a welfare? Now, when I say Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, when it comes to Ministry of Human Resources, the federal government is giving free education to children up to a certain age group. We are giving free education. But it is also empowering them to become productive citizens of the country, who will contribute to the development. Okay? So on the one hand, you have welfare. On the other hand, we are balancing development. So this is how we need to actually, when you go through the budget, this is how you would actually need to look at it. What is the welfare that we are giving, and how much of this welfare is going to convert into development?
Thank you. I'm sure there are many more questions.
Without speaking startup, completion of this program is, I feel, not fully completed, because the startups is very, very important. I need to tell about a startup. Because after the completion of your graduation, some of you enthusiastic entrepreneurs who want to make their way towards the startup to make some commercial operations to self-reliance, because we are speaking about Atmanirbhar, you may feel that I am also self-reliant and Atmanirbhar. I can provide opportunities to the other young talented people. If you feel that startups is one of the best, very, very important opportunity as far as technological concepts and fintech concepts. If you have any new thoughts, you go through the startup. And I would like to give one example. One person, 2 days back, I met Elamanchali Jagadish, NRI, who returned from USA. He started 5 startups 3 years back, out of which one startup he was disposed in Bangalore, 150 crore rupees. He invested only 25 crore rupees, not out of his pocket. He joined hands with some venture capitalists and he disposed. Now he prepared one startup. I need to tell you how we can serve the nation with that particular startup, how to gain financially, that also be part and parcel on your thing. That particular entity is called UBlood. He started UBlood app. The beauty of UBlood app is, like you know that Ola and Uber cabs. If you want Ola cab, from GITAM University itself, you can operate Ola app and you go wherever you want to go to that particular destination. You can execute through the Ola. In similar way, he was prepared one app called UBlood, in which wherever any particular person required blood, that particular person, if he is the member of that UBlood app, automatically within the vicinity of 1 kilometer, whoever other members are that particular app, that information gets forward to that members, whoever they are. If it is not available, any member within 1 kilometer, it goes for next 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and so on. Till 140 crore people, all the people are connecting. Because these kind of innovative thoughts, whatever you have, if you by sitting in your room itself while in leisure time, if you think in that way, you can create beautiful apps. It serves the lives of the people. If you take that consideration of UBlood, it serves the people who require the blood for the survival of the particular person who affected, and at the same time, it getting the opportunity of getting ad revenues, and those other organizations which are required the services related to the blood, they also get connected as a network. So these kind of thoughts you need to develop. And now while you are doing your education as a student itself, you can start your thinking, and this process can be implemented practically after completion of your courses, and even during your study itself, you can do it. You do this kind of approach for during the Amrit Kal to reach India as the #1 in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, with this, we have come to the end of the program. I would like to thank once again Purandeswari ma'am, Dinakar garu and Madhav garu for unraveling the budget of 2023, and thank all the students. I would like to recognize the presence of our President Bharat garu here. So can we all be upstanding for the national anthem?